Clitoris orgasms can best be described like lightning in a storm. It's quick, it's fast, it's exciting, and it can happen multiple times. A G-spot orgasm is more like thunder. You hear it rumbling in the distance, it gets closer, the lights start flickering, and you're like, ah! Welcome to Sip with Summers, the podcast where we explore sex, intimacy, and pleasure. I'm your host, Jennifer Summers, a pleasure and intimacy queen, and a soon-to-be certified sex coach and clinical sexologist. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we have received some anonymous questions from our listeners, and this episode is all about singles Q&A. So if you're a single lady or guy and you have some sexual health questions, sit back, relax, sip on something good, and let's get into some answers. This listener asked, any suggestions for consciously dating without using apps? Okay, as a single lady, I can tell you the apps are not where it's at. They can be fun, right? It's fun to swipe. It's fun to laugh at the wildness that is on these apps, y'all. But I personally do not think I'm going to meet my soulmate on a dating app. If you feel the same way, I have some tips. My first tip is to get out of the house because you're not going to meet your person sitting on the couch. You need to go out and find them. So ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? And go out and do those things. Join meetup.com where you can find activities specific to niches that you enjoy. I joined a Facebook community for the city that I live in, and in that community, I was able to meet other single ladies in the area, and we will make plans to go out on the town and have ladies' night with the intention of meeting guys. So find yourself a girlfriend that you can go and be the Wayne woman with her. And my final tip is to get yourself some pheromone cologne because that shit works, y'all. So my personal favorite is at my link, selfmadediva.com, and it's called Basic Instinct. It's been one of my top selling products for the last 18 years. It's a pheromone cologne. It entices, inspires desire, lets your partner know your sexual readiness. And it's also really good if you work in sales, tips, or commission. It makes everybody smell differently because it reacts to your own natural hormones and pheromones. And I cannot say enough good things about this, y'all. It literally draws them to you. So get some Basic Instinct, get out of the house, find a girlfriend, and go meet somebody new. Our next anonymous question is it normal to get a yeast infection every time I masturbate? It is not common for women to get a yeast infection from masturbation. Without having more information about how you're masturbating, I just have to go off assumptions here and intuition. So my advice would be make sure you wash your hands before and after. Make sure that you are cleaning any type of vibrator devices that you're using with a cleaner that is formulated for adult toys. I once had a client who was having yeast infections after masturbation, and we discovered the cleaning wipes she got from Spencer's had perfume and alcohol in them, and they advise you not to rinse it off after you clean it. Please do not use stuff like this. It is really bad for your vaginal pH, and it can cause a lot of irritation. I recommend the Pure Romance Cleansing Mist because it's formulated for adult toys and it's gynecologically approved. It's not going to irritate your vagina and it gets your toy nice and clean, which keeps you safe. You can get that at selfmadediva.com. Our next question is, do you have any advice on the clitoris being too sensitive after one very short orgasm? I'm not sure what you're using to masturbate or orgasm, but I would try some indirect stimulation. If you're using a toy, you can put a silk scarf over the vulva and use the toy over that silk scarf so you're not getting direct stimulation. Another thing to consider is the clitoris is the most sensitive part of a woman's body. So going directly to the clitoris for stimulation can feel overwhelming. Perhaps try stimulating around the clitoris. So the inner and outer labia, the vaginal opening, maybe some G-spot stimulation would be nice there too. Try some self-exploration here, not including the clitoris, but the areas around it, and see what different experience you may have. Our next question is, talk to me about the differences between all the different female orgasms. Does a vaginal penetration orgasm feel different than a clitoral stimulation orgasm? How do you know if you have experienced? As women, there are so many different ways that we can experience orgasm in our bodies. I recently saw an article that was like 12 different orgasm types, and they were things like clitoris, the G-spot, the vagina, the uterus, nipples, brain orgasms. For some women, the clitoris is going to be the strongest orgasm because it has the most nerve endings and is the most sensitive. Clitoris orgasms can best be described like lightning in a storm. It's quick, it's fast, it's exciting, and it can happen multiple times. A G-spot orgasm is more like thunder. You hear it rumbling in the distance, it gets closer, the lights start flickering, and you're like, ah! That's a G-spot orgasm. Full body tremors for some people. Vaginal orgasms are not as common without clitoris or G-spot stimulation. And that's because the vagina only has nerve endings in the first third. The last 2/3 of the vagina are no nerve endings, so you feel pressure, not pleasure. And it's completely possible to have vaginal orgasms. Just usually you're going to need some type of stimulation with the clitoris. Our next question is, how can I get in the mood more without medication, vitamins, etc.? Before I share some tips, I do want to give an explanation of the sexual response cycle, because until I learned this, I thought I was broken too. There's spontaneous desires. So that's going to be like you see somebody sexy, or you read something or watch something and it turns you on and you're just like ready to go. And then there's responsive desire, which is you responding to an act of sex. In addition to that, you have brakes and accelerators for your sex life. So the brakes are going to be things that turn you off. The accelerator are going to be things that turn you on. Now, all of that said, the different stages for sexual response for women, first it starts off with pleasure. So things are feeling good. And then that leads into the desire. That's why foreplay is so important. We got to get warmed up. 80% of women need 12 to 20 minutes of foreplay before they're even ready to do any type of penetrative sex. Okay, so I've shared some education with you. How are you going to get more in the mood now? Some suggestions would include having a pre-sex routine. So that could be taking a shower or a long bath, doing some self-care and some pampering, smelling nice, feeling good in your body. Also, more foreplay is always going to be on the menu. So massage, caressing, touching. Some women really enjoy conversation as part of the foreplay. So identify for you what you like, what feels good, and have a conversation with your partner and suggest that you all try to do more of that. If you're having trouble getting in the mood due to anxiety is definitely a libido killer. So things like breathing techniques, doing box breathing where you're going to breathe in and hold and then breathe out and hold. Also, getting more embodied, getting back into your body and focusing on the pleasure. Sometimes we get stuck in our head and we're focused on what we're doing and if something is taking too long. And when you're in that mindset, you're going to have such a harder time having an orgasm because you're not in your body. You're in your head and you're outside of your body focusing on all the things that you're doing wrong. There's no playbook when it comes to sex. Pleasure is always going to be the focus. And speaking of pleasure, I sell Pure Romance. I've been doing it for the last 18 years if you've been listening to my podcast. And we have a brand new product, part of our Euphoria line. You can see it at selfmadediva.com. It's called Pleasure Serum. And I am so excited about this product. I've been carrying arousal creams for almost 2 decades, and they're phenomenal. They tingle, they feel good, they create more oxygen and more blood flow to the clitoris. Gives you more orgasms. But this Pleasure Serum, y'all, not only is the packaging super classy, but it also contains L-arginine. And L-arginine is an ingredient that creates clitoral arousal that keeps it lasting for longer. So you're going to do a pump of this pleasure serum. You're going to massage it onto the clitoris and rub it in for like 30 seconds. Give it a nice little massage. It deserves it. What you're going to find is this warming, tingly sensation. It almost feels like a mouth hug, like somebody's mouth is hugging your clitoris, plus you get the tingle. Plus, you have the L-arginine, and that L-arginine is creating more pleasure for you because it's longer lasting. You can use it prior to toy play or self-stimulation. And my last suggestion is to do more self-exploration. Touch yourself. Do the mirror exercise where you hold up a mirror and you look at yourself in a mirror and touch yourself and see what feels good so that you can communicate that to your partner and have better sex. Our next anonymous question, they ask for recommended reading to support one's journey in either getting more comfortable with intimacy if they've had some trauma that may have fucked with them, or with building that with a partner. Okay, so the first book that comes to mind is The Body Keeps Score. That book discusses the brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma. Another book I like that doesn't necessarily refer to trauma is Come As You Are. It's by Emily Nagoski, and it's all about the science of sex. Besides reading, I want to provide a few more suggestions that I think could help. The first is going to be a Reiki practitioner for some energetic healing. When we've experienced trauma in our past, we tend to store that in our body, hence the body keeps score. And Reiki is going to allow for better flow in your body by removing those energy blocks that we have been holding on to for as long as we've experienced that trauma. I also find having a mindfulness practice that you can do daily is really beneficial. It's something that you're going to feel good about and something you're excited to do in your morning routine. Mine is silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling. And I minimum try to take 30 minutes in the day just to do a little bit of each. And I have to tell you, the days when I don't do it, I can absolutely tell a difference. And finally, if you've not been to a therapist, go to therapy. There's no judgment or shame with therapy. Therapy allows you to work through these traumas and these issues so that you can have a happier, more fulfilling life. And as somebody who is a sexual assault survivor, the first time it happened to me, I was 17. And the first time I went to therapy, I was 38. I had 21 years of carrying around all this trauma. And now being able to look back on that period of my life, I can identify all the negative breaks and terrible things that happened to me because I wasn't working through that past experience. Our next question is, men have blue chews, Viagra, etc. to help them get and stay hard. Why can't someone make something for women to help their arousal? Fully recognizing the difference of sexual organs. Viagra works by creating more blood flow to the penis. And with that blood flow, that helps men to get and maintain an erection. They've tried Viagra on women. It doesn't work for us. I know there was that Sex in the City episode where Samantha took Viagra and they were having sex all night long, but I think that's more entertainment and not real life. I am solution focused, and I'm also a clitoris arousal specialist, unofficially, but officially. I carry various clitoris arousal creams at selfmadediva.com. You can also go to the show notes to get my link. The first one is called O, and O is the #1 choice for couples. It has a vanilla frosting flavor, so it's lickable. We also have AMP, which is a good quickie cream because it's a gel formulation, which means it absorbs faster into the body and is going to be the best choice if you are low on time for sexy time. Excitement is a personal favorite of mine until the pleasure serum came out. But Excitement is a warming, tingly clitoris arousal. It has niacin and clove leaf oil, so that creates the warming sensation. And then just a little drop of peppermint oil to give you that tingle. But now my favorite is this Euphoria Pleasure Serum because of the L-arginine, because of that nice warm tingle sensation it provides. And with all of these arousal gels, they work fast. You're going to apply this, and within 30 seconds or less, you're going to feel a nice tingle. It's creating more oxygen and blood flow, and that's helping you get more aroused. I recommend them to all of my clients who are struggling with low desire or low libido because they work, and they've worked well for my clients for decades. The only caveat is you need to apply this before, like right before, because if your partner calls and says, babe, I'll be home in 30 minutes, and you go put that thing on, you're going to be like humping the vacuum cleaner and doing freaky stuff with the washing machine. Like, it works that quickly. Our next question is, why does stress affect your libido and your physical ability for intimacy? Stress affects libido because it makes it difficult to focus on your sexual desire, and it also makes it difficult for you to be present during sex. It kind of goes back to the spectatoring, where when we're not in our body and we're outside of our body, or we're like stuck in our head, it makes it hard to have an orgasm. Under normal conditions, estrogen and progesterone and testosterone are going to naturally raise or lower libido. And also it's affected by our monthly cycle. But when you're stressed out all the time, the adrenal releases cortisol. And cortisol is your stress hormone. And cortisol suppresses the sex hormone, which is killing your libido. And I realize that when you have a low sex drive, it can often cause a lot of stress. And it might feel like a vicious cycle. But I do feel like awareness is really important here, and understanding that when we work with our body instead of against it, we're going to get better results. Knowing that pleasure comes before desire is really helpful in this scenario, because something like a sex toy and lubricant, that can increase your pleasure, which in turn will give you more desire for sex. So consider adding a vibrator and lubricant to your foreplay routine, whether that's solo play by yourself or playing with your partner. Our next question is, how normal is it to have a very long period? I gotta say, I love these anonymous questions, but sometimes questions like these make me wish I could get more information from the person. Like, how long is very long? So without having the information, periods tend to last 5 to 7 days. I'm assuming yours is probably longer than 7 days, because very long to me feels like longer than a week. If you're not on birth control and you are just having a really long period, I would recommend talking to your gynecologist. If you're not up to date on your pelvic exam and pap smears, make that a priority, because preventative medicine is the best kind of medicine. It's better to fix a problem before it gets out of hand. Now, I'll say this. I switched to a progesterone birth control a few years ago, and my experience was I had a 64-day period. Now, it wasn't like super heavy for all 64 days, but I was so emotional and stressed out and just very upset, really, every time I went to the bathroom to see blood. Like, is this ever going to fucking end? When I reached out to my gynecologist, they explained to me that study-wise, the progesterone birth control pills showed that it's very common for women to have a period lasting 2 or 3 months. To me, that didn't feel normal, so I got off birth control. And actually, I've never been on birth control since, but that's another story for another day. For you, if you're feeling nervous and it's lasting more than 7 days, I would recommend go to your gynecologist. If you're in the Washington, D.C. area, I'm happy to give you a recommendation. Feel free to send me an email and reach out. I'm here to help. Our next question is, why is it so hard for me to get turned on? There are so many reasons that women experience low desire. So it can be aging when you move into perimenopause and your hormone levels drop. It could be issues in your relationship, because if you're not seeing eye to eye with your partner, it is going to be hard to get turned on. It could be body image issues. If you're not feeling good in your skin, you're going to have a hard time getting turned on. It could be fatigue. Maybe you're a mom or professional woman or both, and you're just exhausted. If you're tired, it's hard to get turned on. If you've had a past experience of sexual abuse or trauma, sometimes your mind can go to that dark place when it's time for sexy time. Or maybe your partner is not super skilled and they just are not turning you on. My first recommendation is to get a physical from your doctor to rule out any hormonal issues that may be affecting your desire. Also, learning how to have better sex by using vibrators, arousal creams, exploring your own body, and inviting your partner to explore your body as well. Even showing your partner what you like, because the thing is, we have been in our bodies our whole lives. We know what feels good. And I don't think it's fair to expect a partner just to be a mind reader and know what we like. We need to communicate that, and we need to show that to our partner, because then they have the tools to give you pleasure. Lastly, this may be related to stress. So if you are experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety in your life, the cortisol is going to go up, the sex drive is going to go down. So finding ways to become less stressed, breathing techniques, taking breaks, going on a walk, all of these things that are going to help calm you down and get you in a less stressful mindset so that you feel ready and excited to have sex. Our last question for this episode is, why do you think high body count is encouraged for males and discouraged for females? This is a really great question. I have to say, though, I hate conversations around body count. I simply don't believe that body count matters. As long as your partner does not have an STI and they're healthy and they're not giving you any diseases, who cares? There's this idea that if a woman has sex with 50 men, she's going to have a loose vagina. And I say to that, what is the difference between one woman sleeping with 50 men versus one woman sleeping with one man 50 times? The vagina is like a rubber band. It snaps back. Women who have vaginal births, their vagina is not the size of a baby. It snaps back, y'all. Body count simply does not matter. If it's important to you and your partner, have that discussion. But as a sexologist in training, I just simply do not think it matters in the grand scheme of things. Ultimately, body count is another way society shames women. It's okay for men to have sex with 50 people, but it's not okay for the woman to do the same. Big thanks to everybody for asking their anonymous questions so we could share on this episode. If you have any anonymous questions you would like to ask the sexologist in training, go to selfmadediva.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom to ask your anonymous questions, and I'll come and share the answers on a future episode. Also, make sure to rate, review, and share this episode with a friend. Follow this podcast so you can get notified of all of our episodes, dropping every week on Wednesdays, Hump Day. And I can't wait to see you here next week.